The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California.
Howard streaks in, touchdown. Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Nick Harris, John Machota, and Kyle Yeomans.
Welcome into Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live on site in Training Camp 2023. Isaiah, do you know what day it is?
I do know what day it is. It is Say It With Your Chest Friday, baby.
A first Say It With Your Chest Friday of 2023, or the 2023 season, that is. Welcome to the show. John Machota, Nick Harris, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans, Chris Beam running things in the back. And not only...
Do they know that you have to do like the percolating chest?
Yeah, you gotta like bang the chest like King Kong. Yeah. Uh-oh, his mic. Oh, no.
Oh.
What a start to Say It With Your Chest Friday.
They didn't hear the bass on the chest?
You want to... This is live television, live podcasting for everybody. Okay, we got you down. Okay, what day is it, Isaiah?
It is Say It With Your Chest Friday, baby. You guys
There it is, John. Okay.
You guys know how like Terry Crews makes his chest pop?
Yeah.
Kyle started doing that on the show a long time ago.
Really?
Okay.
We gotta see that again.
What if you don't have a chest?
You got to put little beans in there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But Say It With Your Chest Friday, of course, you got to say it with your chest. It's pretty self-explanatory. But here's the cool thing about today. Not only are we going to get to say it with our chest up here at the desk, but you can say it with your chest at home. For the first time in Talkin Cowboys history, we have a Cowboys podcast text line, 817-290-3298. I'll say it one more time for you, but write it down. Don't forget it because, I'll probably say it 100 times. 817-290-3298. We're going to take your questions off of the text line going into the second segment. But, gentlemen.
All right, let me ask you a stupid question real quick.
Gosh.
Is that just for this show, or is this for all the Cowboys
It's
podcasts?
for all the Cowboys
So that's going to be the same
podcasts.
number people can have for, like, the entire... Okay, well, I just... All right.
John's over here trying to cross-promote.
It lifts all boats.
It does. It definitely lifts all boats because it does. I guess somebody give me a pin. I'm just going to put Talkin Cowboys
Okay.
podcast line.
Sorry.
I'm just going to write on it.
Sorry about that.
Real quick, it's competitive.
Okay.
You know, especially by some dude by the name of Derek Eagleton. I'm just
Okay.
saying, I don't know if you know about that guy.
Okay.
Honestly, the competition is his fault, if we're being real. And there's
All right.
there's
All
trash
right.
talk there. Oh, no. Isaiah's having some problems.
Sure, Mike, we can do it. Sure, Mike, we can do it.
So this is a perfect segue, though, and that's why Isaiah's in television. We're talking about competition, and we're talking about a little bit of trash talk, right? That's been the talk around camp over the last couple of days. Dak Prescott, Trayvon Diggs. the trash talk has certainly been there, but Nick, that's competition, right? Is it anything more than that in terms of what Trayvon said to Dak? And, of course, we can't really say it on these airwaves, but what was your takeaway from seeing the trash talk and hearing it from the guys on the field?
Yeah, whenever I first saw the video, I loved it, and I didn't think it would blow up in the way that it did. I think like Dak said yesterday in his press conference, he was like, yeah, anybody that thinks that there was something going on there clearly has never been in heated competition and, doesn't have someone that they can compete with on a day-to-day basis. And it's the second show in a row I'm about to make a Madden comparison. And I really don't like Madden, so this is crazy. But whenever I play Madden with my boys, that's the talk that's going on. Come on now. We gotta come around on this. If this is the topic we're gonna pull from Cowboys training camp this week, it's pretty soft. It's pretty soft.
I think some thought that the B word might have crossed the line, calling a teammate that.
It's fair.
I think that's what stood out is because then you can sit there and compare it to, well, have you ever heard a video of this teammate ever saying that to Joe Burrow? Have you ever heard this of this teammate saying it to Patrick Mahomes? And it's like, well, yeah, just because there's not a video doesn't mean that it doesn't get heated like that. But also, I just think that we're in a part of the season. Training camp just started. National media looking for talking points and things like that. And anything that you can get from the Dallas Cowboys, is a huge deal. I won't name the station, but like after the Earl Spence fight the other night, and I go back to my room and I'm sitting there watching TV, and there's a sports show on, and the top stories are the Earl Spence fight, the UFC fight, and then Dak Prescott turns 30.
Wow.
Like that's your third biggest story because it's the Cowboys, and so I think that's another big part of this.
The issue revolving around this trade, this Diggs and freaking Dak Prescott issue is the fact that it was on film.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only issue. And then people need to understand this goes down every day. Not every day. Every day. There's 3 R's in there, okay? If you don't have this on your team, then, like, you don't have competition. And as a former competitor, and I compete in everything, okay? I mean, I compete on who can sit on the toilet the longest if you really want to go head-to-head. I like, this is what happens all the time. And this is like, if you and I are talking mess to each other, Nick, I got your back like Jansport. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can talk mess to you all day long. I can say whatever I need to about you. I know I'm not going to offend you. It's going to drive us both to be better and compete against each other better. But if somebody else from another team says something to you about you, like, now I have a problem with them. Like, I can do that to you. They can't do that to you. So it's a brotherhood, literally a brotherhood. All of us have close friends. And we talk crazy to our close friends. They talk crazy about us. We say things to them that we would never say to anybody else. But if somebody else was on the outside was to say it to them, you would have their back. And you would be right there in front of them, protecting them like nobody's business. That is the same exact thing that's going on with this Dallas Cowboys team. And everybody's going to say, well, nobody says that to Tom Brady. Nobody said that to Patrick Mahomes. You don't know that?
Yeah.
You don't know that. I've seen Tom Brady in practice. He talks mess. Okay? He talks mess. Okay? I've been with some other quarterbacks. They talk mess. And then there's guys who just don't. That's just not their vibe, right? They talk with their game, and that's okay. But when you know that your competitor really, like, that's what he grew up around. Look at Stephon Diggs. He talks mess. That's what he does, and then they back it up. So, like, you want to see it. I love to see it. You love to see it. It's good stuff, man. People stop making a big deal about it. This is going to transition in a positive way into the games, and you want to see your other guys getting into it too. Some guys just don't use their mouth to do so. Some guys just go out there and bush in the mouth.
My favorite trash talk moment might have been out here one year. Des Bryant was just real fired up like he would always get, and he literally went down the line. And it was just like, I think it stands out to me because everything was kind of quiet, and it was just clear as day to hear it, and he just went right down the line to every DB and goes, you can't guard me, you can't guard me, you can't guard me, you, and you can't guard me, just like one after another. I will always remember that. It was one of my favorite moments because it was just so clean. You could just hear it no matter where you were out here. But the other thing that factors into this, too, is that even if you go back to, like, some of those teams Des was on, there were times where the defense wasn't on the same level as the offense. And one of the reasons why I think this trash talk stands out right now on this team is because there's so much talent on both sides of the ball that it really is. It's as competitive as I've seen it because of how high the talent level is on both sides.
Some of the most competitive guys that I've played with, and I've been blessed to play with a lot of really good dudes, talk mess. They do. I mean, you go back to my teams when I was here in Dallas, we were 13-3. And in the following year, we had Pac-Man Jones, we had T.O., we had Tank Johnson, you know what I'm saying? We had Jay Ratliff. I mean, we had some dudes now, Brady Jane. We had some dudes that are going to talk.
That's
right?
like 2 of the 4 on the Mount Rushmore.
I'm trying to tell you, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, in like other stops that I've made, this happens all the time. And it's almost like if you go or practice without, I'm surprised there hasn't been no fights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm used to fights every day at camp. This is like the cleanest
we
camp
still
I've
got
seen.
like 8 padded practices left. I think we'll be all right.
I'm sure we'll get there. But long story short, this is good for football. This is good for the Dallas Cowboys. It's only going to raise their level of play.
What was the worst thing you were ever called on the football field?
I wasn't really a talker, Kyle. So, like, to that point, like, I could talk.
But does that mean people didn't talk to you?
People talk to me, but it's just noise to me. It's just noise. I think, you know what? I take it back. It was back. I have to go back to college because in the NFL I didn't really have too much of that.
Okay.
In college, I was playing against Oregon at Oregon. And it was a pretty competitive game. And there's some dude by the name of Haloti Nada.
Oh, yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, and Haloti Nada, I came up to the line of scrimmage, and Haloti Nada called me the B word that you heard the other day in practice. And he said, hey, you're a little boop. And I looked, I said, what did I do to offend you? right? But so,
It's like that 50 Cent video.
and I'm looking at this 340-pound man. I'm like, I didn't do anything to you. But in my head, that was in my head. But physically, I was like, hey, man, well, boop, you too. You know what I'm saying? So the next play, next series, I went out there and freaking just screwed him over, threw a touchdown right down the middle. And I looked back at him. I was like, yeah, and you too. You know what I'm saying? And like, he was like, okay, guys, okay. And that was it. But, like, I walked away the other direction. But now it's a part of the game, man. And after that is respect. It's a respect factor. If I'm talking to you, like if we're on equal levels, I could talk to you like that, you could talk to me like that, and it's a mutual respect. It's different than talking down to somebody. Mm-hmm. It's totally different than talking. And most people, I would imagine, that have heard those words and those terms spoken to them, it was probably in a condescending manner. This was not in a condescending manner. This was in a, hey, I respect you, you respect me. Okay, we're going to see who's the best out here.
We're fighting
today.
it out.
We're fighting it out,
yeah.
right? This was not one person up here, one person down here. It would be different if Dak said that to somebody who, a free agent who just got on the team, voting for a special team spot. Like, that's not what this was. These were two high-caliber athletes that are both well-paid and both highly cherished by their organizations, and these guys are going to go compete against each other.
And that's kind of what the national conversation turned into is, does this team respect Dak? If this is the case, if those were the words that were used, if that was the trash talk that was heard on tape, then do they respect Dak? And, Nick, I don't think there's any question. I mean, it begins and ends with 4. Yeah. Right? I mean, this locker room begins and it ends with 4. Yes, there are other leaders in there, but Dak Prescott is the leader of that locker room.
Yeah, on a day-to-day basis, he's the guy that everyone's looking at and looking at for example. But, even Dak said it yesterday. He's like, I'm the one that starts the talking. I'm arguably worse than what was said in that video. Y'all just happen to not catch me on camera. It's crazy how out of proportion it's gotten blown up to be. But, yeah, there's no question in my mind that there's a respect factor there with every single person on the team, all other 89 players. It's wild. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I can't believe we're having this
It is. It's wild.
It just blows my mind every time.
I can give you guys another example of a condescending manner, okay, where smack talk is happening. And again, it comes from Mount Rushmore and T.O. I don't remember who we were playing against, but T.O. was routing somebody up. And it was just an inferior cornerback that should not have been sticking him. And T.O. turned to all of us on the sideline after routing this dude up and catching the ball. He tosses the ball to the referee. He looks back. He doesn't even look at the dude. He points his thumb over his shoulder and says, this dude right here is a chump. And then he goes out there, lines up, routes him up again. He said, I told you he's a chump. You know what I'm saying? So that is like, hey, like, get off me. Like, you can't mess with me. But, like, when you're mutual, when them guys used to go out at Pac-Man and T.O. or Pac-Man or T.O. and T-New or Roy Williams and T-New, like, that's stuff that will go on all the time. Or even Randy Moss. Randy Moss was out there when I was in New England. He talked some mess too. He was kind of a lot less aggressive with it, but he still talked. That's the stuff that you want to see, man, because it sparks a fire in the level of competition. That's when you want to start seeing guys. The coach blows the whistle up to go to the next drill. Back in the day, we used to be like, hey, coach, no disrespect, but no, we got business we still got to finish over here. Like, we're not done yet. Yep. You love that competition. You can't teach that.
Well, you mentioned Tom Brady earlier. You have a Tom Brady story about trash talking in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm talking about? When you were on the sideline, he was yelling at you, and you were yelling at him.
No, that wasn't the Super Bowl. That was
I thought it was.
No, that was that was the next. Was it the next year?
It was the year after, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was the year after. Yeah, we were playing in the preseason, and I was on special teams going to cover a kick. I was going to cover a kick, and I was getting off the vice. And I don't know if people know what a vice is, when two guys are trying to stop the one guy on punt that's trying to go down there and force a fair catch. And I was struggling. It was really my first time ever doing it. I had never even done it in practice. They threw me out there, and I'm running down there, and I threw one guy off me, and I ended up like getting fed up and kind of just stopping and grabbing underneath the dude's face mask and picked him up and like slammed him, like DDT'd him with one hand, and I like dropped the elbow on him, and I got up and kept running. And as we're going to the sideline, we're playing against New England. Tom Brady's like, Isaiah, you're a little boop. And I was like, boop you, Tom. And it was just like, it's respect. You know what I mean? It's just like.
And that's the thing. I mean, you mentioned T.O. I've heard Cowboys teammates of T.O. say that was the best teammate they ever had. And he was one of the best trash talkers that they had ever had. People love J-Ron Curse. Dak Prescott named him yesterday as the top trash talker on the team. It's a part of the game. And this is why I love the fact that we have this text line. Brian in Denver texted in. He said, the disrespect argument is off base because Diggs said that, or to say what he said, but Dak started it and said something to Diggs first. So it's not even a disrespect. It's just trash talk. It's the give and take. And then there was another from Steve from Charlotte, North Carolina, said, shout out to the media member that caught the real competition on tape. And that's what it was. It was that real competition. That's the iron sharpens iron that we've talked about so much on this show. And we did burn an entire first segment talking about it, but it really is. It's a non-topic, but it's blown up into this big topic because of that. Yep. Because of the star that's on the chest and the star that's on the helmet. Because it's always going to be a topic of conversation. But when we come back here on Talking Cowboys, takeaways from padded practice number 3, the defense looked unstoppable at times. And we're going to talk about Dak Prescott and how he's looked out here in practice, so you don't want to miss anything coming up. Talking Cowboys returns right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club is here to help. As a coffee club member, you'll get your favorite coffees roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door free of charge on your preferred schedule. Set it, forget it, and never run low on coffee again. Members also get exclusive deals on coffee, products, and discounts from partner brands. Ease your mind and let Black Rifle worry about your coffee supply. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to join the coffee club today.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys, and now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't stop banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. This portion of Talking Cowboys is brought to you by Quaker Oats, a super trusted superfood. Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Heading into segment number 2, we're going to take your questions on the Cowboys podcast text line, 817-290-3298. But before we get into that, I want to allow for these text messages to keep on filing through. I want to talk about your impressions from yesterday's practice. And we will have another practice tomorrow. That's the big one. We got a scrimmage going on. The blue and white scrimmage gets started at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Central time. We'll have it broadcast on TXA 21 the entirety of the practice, so that'll be a whole lot of fun. But, John, I'll start with you. Impressions from yesterday and really a defensive-led practice.
It was, and because of that, from the video standpoint, it was kind of boring to me. I thought it was kind of a letdown. I was like, we do this thing on the sideline sometimes where we'll be joking around how we'll yell in, run the cool plays, just because we want the tweets to blow up. But no, I would say one of the things that stood out was there were a couple of passes from Dak. The one that almost got picked off by Gilmore, only got the 1 foot in. Trayvon Diggs had a pick on a ball that came after there was an offside penalty. So it wasn't like, those aren't like these major concerns or anything, but those are the ones that people see and they're like, oh, Dak's throwing interceptions again. Dak's throwing interceptions. Like, they're working on things that they're bringing in a new offense. This isn't something that, like the throw to Simi Fehoko with Stephon Gilmore on him. Like, if this is on a Sunday, he's not even making that throw. He's working on other things. He's trying to get other receivers involved. And so I thought Dak looked pretty good, really throughout camp. He's such a lightning rod for everything. Part of it is probably because of how they ended the season last year, and then the other part of it is he's the face of the franchise. But I would say out of that, one other person that stood out to me was Jonathan Hankins. He just seemed like a disruptor in the middle when they were doing things in the run game. But those are probably the two biggest things for me.
Yeah, and about the interceptions, would you rather it be in week 1 or would you rather it be in a controlled environment out here when they're still trying things out? It's just that's another rhetoric point that's just kind of being thrown around as Dak's interceptions during training camp. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice, Isaiah.
Allen Iverson.
We're talking about practice. But Jonathan Hankins, I do want to touch on that. Man, he had an awesome day yesterday. And talking about that interior defensive line, we could take Mozzie Smith out of the equation. Since Jonathan Hankins has come in, there has been a clear improvement there. And if he can unlock kind of that athleticism and extra step that he had, a couple of years ago and bring it back and pair that with Mozzie Smith, man, that's the perfect defensive line. That's what you want to look at. Osa Odigizua had an awesome day himself yesterday. I think everything in that interior defensive line is looking exactly how you want it to look right now.
And that's what's scary about training camp is because it's your guys versus their guys. So is it the defensive front is just that ahead of everyone else and they're just that good?
Looks that way right now.
It does. Or is it the fact that your offense is just not very good?
That's
your
a fair
offensive
point.
line is not very good. You have to take everything in consideration and in context, and you don't have any other context to go up against. So this offensive line might be okay against normal competition, but against one of the better defensive fronts in football, they're just getting their behinds whooped. I mean that's just kind of what it's. Yeah, they're just getting beat at this point.
Well, it wasn't all bad, you guys. It wasn't all bad for the offensive line. I think that there were some good things. Obviously, those guys are facing Mozzie Smith, and actually they had a big package. Did you guys notice that?
Yep, Bohanna and Mozzie.
Mozzie, Hankins, and I think it was Fehoko that was thrown in there as well.
Filiami.
Yeah, they had a big package, so that was pretty awesome to see. I don't know how you run against that, but there was some positive, and one of the positives I saw from somebody who needs some positive right now was Ronald Jones. Yep. Ronald Jones had some good runs yesterday, man, and he showed some bursts that I didn't know he had. To be quite honest, he made some nice moves in the backfield, obviously with some pressure back there, and he created. There's one thing to be able to go out there and have a nice executed run based upon the way that you design it on paper, but it's another thing for things to get blown up and for you actually to create something, create some space in the backfield, and then cross the line of scrimmage and then show a little burst to get downfield. I think there was some positive there. Obviously, he's going to continue to have his momentum, continue to put his work in because he's preparing now for week 3 instead of the preseason and or the first 2 games. So that was positive. And then on the flip side, Stephon Gilmore. And I know he's quiet assassin really, but the things that he does that don't get talked about, they don't show up on the stat line, which is Kyle knows I'm not a huge advocate of stats all the time because they don't show the whole picture. He is going to contribute to so many other guys' success because of his understanding of splits, his understanding of route concepts, his elimination of possibilities. I was sitting there with Derek Eagleton yesterday watching practice, and I was explaining to him just his progression. It's like a multiple choice test. You go out there, you walk on the offense comes to the line of scrimmage, and there's 6 possible answers, and he eliminates 2 of them right off the bat. Right, and then obviously then the ball snapped, and the stem of the receiver eliminates another 2. So now he has a 50-50 chance on what he's selecting in terms of what you could possibly run. And then, if something goes over, his nonverbal communication to be able to pass off his responsibilities to other guys to alert them as to what's coming their way, it's just going to help tremendously. So to both of those guys, Ronald Jones and Stephon Gilmore, they did some really amazing things that might not have been shown on film, but they were all really good in terms of their sides of the ball.
There were some center quarterback exchange issues, but that was because Matt Farniak was getting some work as the backup center. Those weren't with Tyler Biotish. So again, training camp, this is the time you want to work through that stuff.
Yeah, it's all building on each other. And you mentioned Ronald Jones having a great day. I thought Rico Dowdle Jr. I always call him Rico Dowdle Jr. Is he Jr.? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Rico Dowdle, he had a great day as well. But also Deuce Vaughn has been turning some heads, as you would think, from somebody that was 1, a draft pick, and 2, in a position of need at the moment. And our first question from the text line from the 559 says, does Deuce Vaughn look like he's going to be able to escape a lot of contact when games begin, Or is that something we won't be able to tell until the preseason happens? What do you think, Nick?
I think it's going to be tough for him because there's been a couple of times out here where he's like bounced off of tacklers where he'd be getting flattened in a game. So
I don't know, Nick.
Look, he's got the elusiveness, he's got the bounce. It's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to be on a consistent basis that everyone might think. I think coming into camp, a lot of people were talking about Deuce Vaughn being able to be a returner. Like he's got that much elusiveness and that much bounce. I don't think so. I want to temper expectations on Deuce Vaughn just because. I mean, I hate to say
you're
it,
being a hater.
Because I am being a hater. I am being a hater, and I hate to be a hater because I love Deuce Vaughn, but I need to see it on the NFL field first. That's all.
I agree with you in the sense that you're not going to know what he's fully capable of until the preseason games present themselves. The more I watch him, the more I see Darren Sproles.
Yep.
If you watch Darren Sproles is 5'6", 190. Right? Darren Sproles was a complete dog. And not only because of the offensive line that he was playing behind, but also the quarterback that he had. And he was just elusive, right, in the sense of you can't see him. When he does pop out, he's quick. He's accelerating. His 0 to 60 speed is very fast. And then he's able to bounce off tackles. Tackles that would get most 6-foot running backs down don't get him down because he has low center of gravity. His legs are strong as all get out. I see the same thing in Deuce Vaughn. And we don't know because, you're only thudding up in practice. Right. Thudding up, for those that don't know, means that I'm going to hit you with my shoulder pads and my helmet, and I'm going to let you go because you're my teammate.
It's an advanced form of two-hand touch.
Exactly, right?
That's all it is.
A little physical two-hand touch. So that is what you're seeing in practice. So you don't know. You don't know. Would he have broken that tackle? I don't know. Would he have spun out of that? Would he have kept his balance? You don't know. But you will know here, by the next weekend. So you'll figure that out really quickly, and I'm excited to see it.
I will say what I come back to is his game against Alabama and how he was able to bounce off those guys. I mean, those are NFL talents through and through on that Crimson Tide defense. So.
I rode down on the bus from the airport with Deuce. I mean, we were in the same section of the bus, and I asked him, I said, what was your favorite college game? And he said, it's close. He said, most people would probably say that Alabama game. He's like, but for me, it was the first game at AT&T Stadium. It was the first game of his sophomore year, and he played against Stanford, and he had, I think, 3 touchdowns. I think he had over 150 yards on the ground. It was like his coming out party, and it just so happened to be at AT&T Stadium, and it was the first game where he was really the number one back, and he was the featured back. He's looking to try and replicate some of that next week in AT&T Stadium again, in his first NFL experience as a back. Because he's going to get – I would think he would get the majority of the carries. I think Ronald Jones will get work. I think Malik Davis will get similar work. I don't see a whole lot for each one of those guys. I think it'll be a Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn show just to see what these guys have. Dowdle coming back from injury, and then Vaughn, of course, with the expectations that he has.
Yeah, my thing with Deuce Vaughn is really the – I've never obviously played running back. It's the going from college, being the guy, knowing every Saturday, I'm getting minimum 15 touches, might get 20, might get 25. And then that might even work a little bit in the preseason, but for him to be used in the regular season, he's just not going to get those touches. Some guys that's easier for them. I think for some guys, they need a lot of touches to kind of get themselves going. How can he fit into that where it's like, hey, on Sunday, you might only touch the ball 2 times. Do you not try to do too much to try and make something happen that maybe isn't there because you want to, kind of, hey, I'm gonna put myself out there so that they can see, hey, this is what I am, because he's just not going to get the same amount of workload right away that he did at Kansas State.
Is that something that Tony Pollard had to go through at one point? Yeah. I mean, he was even a part of a shared backfield at Memphis. He wasn't the number one guy the entire time.
Right.
He had one season really where he was the featured back, but I mean, he kind of had to go through a little bit of that growing pain too, right?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. But I never thought of him as like the featured number one guy that like obviously Zeke was at Ohio State, and he can step in, right away, make an impact day one, and you see that with a lot of running backs, especially the ones that get drafted high like that. But for Deuce Vaughn, it's going to be how can he make an impact with only maybe a handful of plays.
It's an uphill battle. It really is, and I like the way that Nick said it, like temper expectations. That doesn't mean write off Deuce Vaughn by any stretch of the imagination. I think that we've proven already by this point you should not write off Deuce Vaughn because he's made it this far, but also at least limit the expectations, and we'll see what happens whenever the preseason comes around.
I will say really quick, I think the running back group, I think that is the most important, or I think that's the group with the most spotlight in the preseason, because that's the group that needs to, somebody's going to have to pop out or somebody's going to get left out.
So from the biggest spotlight during the preseason to the one guy that's probably not going to play at all in the preseason. Dak Prescott, you mentioned him and how he's looked good throughout camp, but we got a question from Peterson in San Diego, and he basically says early in his career he was known as a poor practice player, but he was a gamer. He came back in and he was able to put things together whenever the lights came on. Now he looks like he's a great practice player, but he's lost some of these big games lately. What is going on? Do you feel like the script is flipped, or do you think Dak's just a better practice player now and he's just come up against some tough competition at times?
I mean, he's a better practice player now. I mean, like we mentioned the other day, I mean, there were definitely camp practices where you didn't know if it was him or Jameel Showers from week to week in 2016 after Kellen Moore went down. But he's definitely a better practice player now. In terms of how that equates to the regular season or even how he plays in the playoffs, I think has nothing to do with that. I think that stuff has a lot to do with he's been the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys since 2016. There's a lot of tape on him. I mean, everyone kind of knows what he likes to do, what his strengths are, and every defensive coordinator is going to be able to build off of that. That has a lot more to do with it than anything of, well, he's a better practice player now, and then whatever in the regular season. The stuff that he was doing in 2016, there's a lot of stuff he had success with because nobody had ever seen it. Especially coming from the Cowboys, you're expecting like Romo at quarterback, the way that and then all of a sudden you got this guy coming in from Mississippi State. He's running the ball like they weren't used to seeing that. So that's the tough part about the NFL, and obviously he's done a good enough job that he's still a franchise quarterback playing at a high level all these years later.
Yeah, those are really good talking points. I think, early on and not being a good practice player, that just comes with entering the NFL and getting used to the practice environment. But as the years have gone on, he's become a better player. But like you said, there's more context for opponents. So what was the last part of his question where he was like, or is it just...
Yeah, or is it that he's come up against that tough competition, like John was saying, in playoff time, and that's when things go wrong for Dak?
Who looks good against that 49ers defense in the playoffs,
I was about to say, is that 49ers team better than that Packers team that he faces rookie year? I think so, without a doubt.
Wow.
I think they're better than that Falcons team that beat that Green Bay team, so.
Nick gets say it with your chest Friday, Isaiah. He understands it.
I like it, Nick.
The 2022 Niners are better than the 2016 Packers. Chest.
Your faith. Like it. What do you think?
I mean, practice is practice. I mean, you're supposed to make mistakes in practice. That's so that you don't make mistakes in the game.
Kind of playing off of that, and this is a good question for you to answer. George from the 703 says, do you think the Cowboys not practicing with another team this year, I mean, of course, no joint practices, no Chargers, Broncos, or Rams like we've seen the last 2 years, will that make them sloppy in their tackling and their aggressiveness when trying to finish plays?
No, because the rules are the same in those joint practices. I mean, the same way that we're just talking about thudding up, it's supposed to be thudding up whenever you have those joint practices as well.
That's how fights happen.
That's how fights happen. Whenever it's not thudding up and you go to the ground. I remember back at camp years ago when we were practicing against Denver, they weren't thudding up. They were tackling Felix Jones. They were tackling Tashard Choice. And because of that, there were some fights that broke out, some massive fights, by the way. But I do think that I get his question in the sense of you like the competitiveness whenever you have those joint practices, but when you're focusing on trying to onboard a new system, I get not wanting to practice against other teams as well, because that can become a distraction in a sense. Guys can get so riled up in the actual competitive side of it that they forget that, hey, you're supposed to be learning how to do things the right way. So when he's trying to, and Coach McCarthy, when I say he's trying to instill a form of consistency right now, and that's more important than the competitiveness, because he's not concerned about the competitiveness. He knows his team is going to be, well, you just saw it, right? Everybody's talking about it. Dak and Trayvon. The competitiveness is there. That's no question mark, right? That's one of the reasons why you go practice other teams. He wants to make sure that everybody knows what the heck they're doing. They can do it play after play after play. That's more important. You'll see it show up next week. That is going to be their test run. That's their joint practice, is these 3 preseason games.
When he said the thing about the fighting, all I thought of was that practice a couple days ago where Parsons hit Dak in the legs, and I'm like, if that's a different team, they're fighting. If that's like Aaron Donald running into Dak's legs, or if that's Micah running into Stafford's legs, those teams are fighting
Immediately. Immediately.
Practice is over.
Yeah, that would be rough. I mean, we saw it out here a couple years ago. Aaron Donald and Connor Williams going after it, and something like that, just barely touching.
It's a perfect example, you guys, of what I was just saying in regards to the smack talking. It's okay when your teammates do it. right? It's okay when Micah Parsons, accidentally falls by the legs of Dak. You heard Dak. What did he say? He said, "Well, I guess I got to keep my feet light. That's a part of the game. I got to be able to step up in the pocket and move around." But if another team would have done that, it would have been freaking off the top rope every single time by everybody on that team. So it's okay for your guy to do it because it's competitive. But when another guy's doing it, you're taking a shot at my team, and I'm not going to allow that. That's what it's all about. It's a brotherhood, man. So people can't pick and choose and say, "Well, that's okay," but that's not. This is football. You protect your brothers.
Yeah, it is a brotherhood out there, and you can see that competition growing, and I love it. I really do. This has been, at least in terms of the competition and the intensity, I think this is the most intense camp that I've been to. Now, my list isn't as long as others. I'm only a number 4, but I just really think there's an intentionality. I don't even know if that's a word.
It is now.
It is.
Say it with your chest.
I say it with my chest. There's an intentionality. There's an intention with what they're doing on the practice field, and you can see it even from the outside. Right. We'll tell you if intentionality is a word when we come back with more Talking Cowboys, and we'll continue to answer your questions. Give us a text, 817-290-3298. We'll be back in a moment.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Black Rifle Coffee Company serves premium coffee to people who love America. When you drink Black Rifle coffee, you are directly supporting veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in your community. Black Rifle's expert roasters love coffee almost as much as Texas loves football, so it makes sense that America's Coffee partnered with America's team. Go online at blackriflecoffee.com and fuel up with the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. That's blackriflecoffee.com to fuel up today.
Want to use the Cowboys locker room's favorite products? Check out the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. And this segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. Back with John Machota, Nick Harris, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans. What was the verdict on intentionality being an actual word?
Yeah, man, you got a word.
Let's go.
Man, I just deleted it. But no, it's a word.
It's a word, I believe you.
Yeah, no, I got it. It's the quality of mental states that consists in their being directed towards some objects or state of affairs.
Or the defensive line.
That was the other definition. That's the second
nice.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
Oh,
man.
and it's peaking. In 2019 is when it peaked.
Oh, very good.
It was not used at all in the 1800s.
Okay, we'll have to figure out a way to
Aaron
get
Donald,
back there.
You know,
Yeah, it's
that's
Aaron
when he
Donald.
started to come around.
Intentionality. Yep, there you go. Learn something new every day. All right, continue to send us questions on this text line. We're trying it out for the first time today. Really like it because this is just another way for Cowboys Nation to interact with us on the show. You can save the number 817-290-3298. And we got a question from Michael O. in Boston. He said, love the cast you guys have assembled for Talking Cowboys. Salute you, my friend. My question is, how worried are you about Luke Schoonmaker's health, saying that he's had this injury since college and it hasn't gotten any better? It's a second-round pick on an injured tight end. Is there any concern, a level of concern for you guys in not seeing Luke Schoonmaker out on the field?
Yeah, there's concern just because there's only so much you can do staying on the sideline. So that part is concerning, and it is plantar fasciitis, and that can be one of those things that takes a while to get past it, and you never really know exactly when it's going to happen. So, yeah, there's concern just because he's a rookie. And then the fact that you don't have Dalton Schultz, there's so many opportunities for a young guy to get these opportunities. So because of that, yeah, but not in terms of his whole entire career or anything like that, but in terms of making the impact right away, yeah, there's a part of me that thinks a little bit like Jalen Tolbert last year where he didn't get to, kind of hit the ground running because of an injury setback and that. So, yeah, for sure. And they need Schoonmaker. They need as much help they can get at the tight end spot because I don't think it's going to be just one guy like it was, Dalton Schultz getting the bulk of those targets.
As a rookie in that, especially in that tight end room that's so young, and I feel like everyone's really learning and bouncing off each other, him getting on the field is really important right now. But I will say the mental reps that he is taking, everyone around him is saying he's doing as much as he can with that. Whether it's tight end coach Linda Wells, Jake Ferguson, all of those guys are like, yeah, he's buying in and doing what he needs to do. But it's just, getting on the field, it's really important. But plantar fasciitis, my mom had it. Shout out to my mom out there. She had it like 2 or 3 years ago, and that stuff is the most stubborn injury you could possibly have. Because one day you could be completely fine, you could run a marathon, and the next day it feels like Michael Scott on the George Foreman grill on that Office episode. It's so tough, and I understand the pain that Luke is going through specifically, and it kind of throws off the whole training regimen because the training staff doesn't know what he's going to feel on a day-to-day basis. So I would like to see him get out there for a preseason game, but I don't feel like you really need to do it until the third game if you really want him on the field to start the season.
I like everything that these guys have said. Everybody knows how important it is, especially at that position group and the role that they are expecting him to fulfill. He's needed. His services are needed, and he needs these reps. There's no replacing these reps, especially at the tight end position, where you not only have a responsibility to be able to run your routes precisely, catch the ball, make plays there, but you also have to be able to block like you're an extension of the offensive line. These reps, he won't get these reps back. The sooner he can touch the field, the better.
The other Michigan guy, though, in that room, Sean McCune, has been getting a lot of praise his last few days from Mike McCarthy, Lunda Wells yesterday, tight ends coach, talking about, just how much he's really been at the right place, right time, doing everything the right way. And as long as Schoonmaker isn't in the mix, that's just going to be more reps for McCune.
That surprises me, too. I did not expect to put Sean McEwen on an article yesterday talking about the 10 stock risers. But he's done great. He's done great this camp.
I would say, yeah, Sean McEwen. And then when Mike McCarthy was talking the other day about, like, what running back are the backups, and he said Rico Dowdle. And that was before, like, we got to see him out there. Like you said yesterday, he kind of stood out and stuff like that. So, yeah, it is always interesting when you just ask a coach or front office, like, hey, just give me, like, one guy that, like, you think has really stood out. And 9 times out of 10, it's somebody you're like, okay, damn, I need to watch that guy a little bit more,
What about Nashawn Wright? The DC fan from Long Beach, California says, from your guys' perspective of Nashawn Wright at practice, how is he executing, and does he make the roster? And if so, what's roster spot and where on the roster does he land?
Nashawn Wright is balling.
Yeah,
I don't know what everybody else is talking about. Nashawn Wright is balling. I don't think you have any worries about him making this roster. The things he's able to do, other guys can't do. This dude is long. He's Dawson from Street Fighter, like I always say. He's finally stepping into the physical aspect that he needed to add to his game. That was one of the question marks. He really with him and Mukwama, right? But Mukwama's not out there right now. But Nashawn has added that physical element, and he's guarding the best guys. And every time you look up, he's guarding the best guys on defense. Whether it's a walkthrough rep or whether it's a full speed rep, he is going to be a great asset to this team. He started doing so towards the end of last year, and you're going to start seeing a lot more this year for sure. I think they're going to depend more on him.
I think he's had some ups and downs. I think there's been times where he's made great plays, no doubt about it. He had the big interception early in camp on the deep ball down the left sideline, made the catch up against Jalen Tolbert, and that was fantastic. And he's made other plays like that too, pass breakups. He's been in the right spot at the right time. But then there are other instances where you'll look and there's just separation there. And so you can see the growth. You can see the improvement from Nashawn Wright, and that's something that I think Cowboys fans should be excited about because that's what you want to see from a guy like that they went and they took a chance on him with that 99th pick a couple years ago, and he's consistently gotten better, and that's what you've seen on the practice field this year. I think while there is some ups and downs, and there's always going to be with a young cornerback, especially whenever he hasn't had starter reps consistently, he's going to need to continue to see that.
And the thing is, like, there are very few corners in this league that can guard every style of receiver.
Sure.
And the ones that do,
that's a great point.
They get paid like Trayvon Diggs.
Darrell Revis, that's in Canton this week.
Revis. Yeah. I was on a flight with Revis not too long ago, and you see each other. You're like, hey, I recognize you, and we talked it up for a little bit, and we've had some battles as well. But there's only a handful of those guys. The other guys, like, there's a style of receiver that they do well with, and there's a style of receiver they don't do well with. So Nashon's not going to do well with the smaller, quicker dudes. That's not his thing. He's out there for the big boys. You know, when the big boys step out there and you have a pretty good size, or even a tight end, I can put hands on you. I can bless you. I can bless you. You want to cross this line of scrimmage? You know, but then you got the smaller guys, like the Deron Blands and the Jay Lews of the world. Those are the feisty guys. They're going to stay in the hip pockets of the little quick guys. So when you're talking about, you know, we talk about ups and downs of defensive backs or any player, like there's skill sets preferences in terms of where they're going to be more successful than others, right? He's not a holistic all-around cornerback, and they're not going to put him in those situations to fail.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, Nahshon Wright is 6'4". And that's the sacrifice you take with the length that he has. Is he's probably going to be a step off at times, and you know, but that's the sacrifice you take. You look at his wingspan, you look at his legs, and how much ground he can cover just with his strides, and that's the sacrifice you get with him. And I think he's used his length to his max ability in camp so far. I think that's why he's having such a good camp. We looked at some of the pass breakups that he has been in on, and it's like, wow, how did he get there? It's because he's got Elastigirl arms over there.
Exactly.
But being a step slow, he's not going to cover those speed guys. You know, Brandon Cooks, let's not line him up on him.
Yeah.
But hey, Jalen Tolbert, or you know, whenever the season comes around, throw me a receiver in the NFC East. I'm
they're all
right
kind
now.
of fast.
Yeah, I know. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, not Jalen Hyatt, not AJ Brown, not Devontae Smith. Not Terry McLaurin, but there's guys that you could put Nahshon Wright against, and he will have a great day. Yep. There's guys you could put him against, he will have a terrible day. It's just knowing your personnel.
Does that tell you though, like the limitations of Nahshon Wright? The fact that you can go down the list of these guys that are impact receivers at
for sure
in the division. I mean, is there a spot for him to come in and be like, all right, we have to have him on the 53 man because?
Absolutely.
I mean, you gotta give and take here, right?
And then also, you know, you rip off all those names you talk about, like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, all that. Those are some of the best receivers in the entire league.
It's going to happen, right?
And let's be honest here. Like, it's not like they're just lining up like two receivers. There's 3-4 receivers that are out there. There's going to be – I'll just say this about Nahshon Wright. Yes, there have been some lows, but I think his highs are high enough that he reminds me of the type of guy that if you were to let him go, I could so see him thriving on another team. And you sitting there and being like – oh man, I remember when he was with the Cowboys, man. Why'd they let him go? I don't see them doing that.
And the other thing, John, is like there's a thing called zone defense. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that.
I've heard about this.
And the longer you are in zone, right, the taller defensive backs you have, the smaller those gaps are in terms of possible opportunities for teams to be able to drop the ball in buckets. So we're not talking about man-to-man coverage all the time. We're talking about him sitting in his zone with safety help and him being able to go get it, put his arms up there. You have Nahshon Wright and Israel Mukuamu on the same side, or even Curse on the same side. There's not a lot of holes for that ball to find. There's a lot of length up there, and they're going to get their hands on balls that most guys wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's where it gets kind of tough for me too. I do like Nahshon Wright. Don't get me wrong, but if you're going with AJ Brown and you're talking about Devontae Smith and covering these better receivers in the NFL, at times you're going to have to line up against those guys. And I don't think you're going to look at Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore and say, oh, man, you guys get a pass because those are some of the better receivers in the NFL.
You're paying those guys to not come off the field, too.
Correct. But Nahshon Wright, in order to be in the conversation as a starting cornerback, those are the guys you got to be up there with. So
he's not starting. Let's lay that out.
Then that's fine. That's what I'm saying is I don't think he's a starter.
No,
I want him on the roster.
Diggs and Gilmore and Bland.
Right.
Those are your starters.
Good.
So everybody else is filling.
Just making sure we're on the same page.
But I would feel comfortable with him sliding in if Diggs or Gilmore got hurt. I'd feel comfortable.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that too.
Agree that he's a starter.
And I think he has. I think he's had a great camp, and like I said, he's grown along the way, and that's something I think is a positive for Cowboys fans.
You certainly feel better about those guys that they have backing up at corner than you do, as we talked about the other day, about the backup on the offensive line.
No doubt.
For sure.
No doubt.
You would love to have a Nahshon Wright equivalent at
guard.
Yeah.
And it takes me back to the Tennessee game, too. The Tennessee game, whenever some of those guys went down, you needed guys to step up, and Nahshon Wright was one of them. He had an interception in that game, one of which that was in zone, and he used his closing ability and his length to get there.
Let's solve this. Let's line up KY against Nahshon Wright next practice. Let's go. Man-to-man, baby. One-on-ones.
And that's going to do it for us here on Talkin Talkin Cowboys. Say it with your chest Friday. Off to a great start here in 2023. But we'll be back on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central time on DallasCowboys.com. And, of course, you can catch us on Spotify and iTunes as well. For John Machota, Nick Harris, Isaiah Stanback, for Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you next time, next week on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!